Mr. Mara, enough. We will not stop until you fire everyone. Set the plane flying over MetLife Stadium. Welcome back to the Everything New York Giants podcast with your host, New York Giants fangirl. I'm Adriana. Welcome back, you guys. Recapping the surprise, Giants lost to the Ravens on Sunday. They lost 35-14. And what I will say is I am surprised that they scored 2 touchdowns because I thought for sure this was going to be a 1 touchdown and done if we're lucky type of game. But the Giants scored 2. But let's start with the plane because it's back. Apparently, there was a different purchaser this time of the plane message. So last week it said, please, Mr. Mara, fix this dumpster fire. And then this week it's Mr. Mara, enough. We won't stop until you fire everyone. So listen, the people who are using their hard-earned money to get this message across to the Maras and Tishes, God bless. Love you. Love the work that you're doing. Appreciate you getting the message across from the entire fan base, because I think at this point, there is not a single Giants fan who is on board with keeping either Dable or Shane or both, because it's over. It's done for them. It is over with a capital O. The Giants are 0-8. 0-8 at home this year. They are going to be the only team ever to go 0-9 because God knows they're not going to beat the Colts. The Colts are pretty bad, don't get me wrong, but the Giants are 100 times worse. Like, it's not even close. So there's that. So 0-9 at home for the first time since the 70s. I think it was 1972, the last time that a team went with not a single win at home. And this was also before the 17-18 game schedule. So that's where we're at with this Giants team. Is there anything good that came out of yesterday? Tim Boyle was slightly better than I expected him to be. And like I have said before, my expectations with this team are just in the gutter. So if they don't completely embarrass themselves and throw pick sixes and turn the ball over 100 times and miss kicks and can't score touchdowns and all the things, I'm not surprised. So I'm more surprised when they play better at this point. Like I said, surprised they scored 2 touchdowns because I was fairly certain it was going to be 0, maybe 1 if we're lucky. So let's talk about it. Tommy DeVito, the 3rd string, moved to 2nd string. Now the 1st string quarterback left the game with a concussion. He is still in concussion protocol, which is what Dable said today. We will get the injury report on Wednesday for any other updates, but I would say he's probably not going to play on Sunday. So we're looking at Tim Boyle. And honestly, the way that DeVito played, like, don't get me wrong, they are both bad quarterbacks. We all know that. Tim Boyle was the better of the two. If I'm them, I'm starting Tim Boyle on Sunday. Just do it. The Tommy DeVito thing is over. He's not a very good quarterback. It is what it is. Maybe it'll work out with him somewhere else. It's not here, not this year, probably not next year either. That's hot. Okay. Tim Boyle. So he went 12 for 24 for 123 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, sacked once for 2 yards. DeVito, 10 for 13 for 68 yards, 0 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, sacked twice for 8 yards. So, to be expected of this quarterback situation that we are in right now, where our 4th string quarterback, Tim Boyle, is likely to be the starter on Sunday because that's where we're at. Tyrone Tracy led the rushing attack with 10 attempts for 31 yards. 31 yards. Singletary, 8 for 25. DeVito, 1 for 0, which was on that 4th and 1 attempt, quarterback sneak that got stuffed. Great call. And then Tim Boyle is 1 for -1 yard. So rushing attack was great yesterday. 20 carries for 55 yards. The Ravens have a very good run defense. I don't think anyone is surprised that our rushing attack was that bad. I felt like at points during the game, like I felt like Tracy was doing okay, where he was getting these chunk yardage and it looked like he was doing quite well. And then all of a sudden he would just go for like, a yard or negative yards. So it is what it is. what are you going to say at this point? The only thing I have to say is that I'm glad they put in Singletary to get the touchdown, because me, before the season, took a bet that was Singletary over 4.5 touchdowns on the year. And I was like, of course he's going to get that. Why wouldn't he? And he's at 4 now. So I've got 3 games to get 1 more touchdown. I bet like $10 on it. So it's not a big deal if I lose it. I'm just like, at this point, I'm like this close. Give me something to be excited about, because there's nothing else on this team to be excited about. So I'll take what I can get. Let me win $20 on a bet that Singletary gets 5 touchdowns on the year. And we're in week. He was our starting running back, and we are in what are they? They're 2-12, so we're in week 14 or 15. About to be in week 15. And yes, Singletary, their starting running back, has 4 touchdowns. That's where we're at. That is where this offense is at. Let's talk about the rushing attack, because Neighbors had a good game. Out of 14 targets, 10 receptions for 82 yards and 1 touchdown. Him getting that touchdown was glorious. I feel like, if I want to give Neighbors some props here, because he's had a tumultuous season, no doubt about it. It is not really his fault. He's on his 4th string quarterback. It is what it is. But one thing I really appreciate about him, and I said the same thing about Brian Burns, and I give Brian Burns a shitload of credit, because like I said, this season sucks. Both of those players have every opportunity to go to the coaching staff and say, look, I am obviously hurt. I'm not playing my best, and I don't feel great. And let me just shut it down for this week. Let me sit out this week. Let me sit out this season. Like, I need to rest, recuperate, whatever. And the fact that Neighbors, who's a rookie and who has historically said some questionable things in press conferences and made me, and I'm sure some of you, feel like he's not invested and doesn't really care, really turned it on a dime for me this week. And I have to say, give him a lot of credit, and I give him a lot of props, and he deserves that credit, because he has every opportunity to say, I literally don't care. This team sucks. Tim Boyle is the quarterback, and you expect me to make plays with Tim Boyle? And he's obviously hurt. He came off the field at one point with, after he got stepped on by his own player. And you can just tell he's been on and off the injury report, dealing with a groin issue and all sorts of stuff. So I give him a lot of credit for not only going out there and being on the field every single play, unlike Campbell on the Niners, who just decided that he didn't want to play. That could very well be Neighbors. And I give him a lot of credit. And I'm really happy that that is not the person, that is not the character he has, and that is not the player that he is. So it makes me really happy. So props to you, Neighbors. Great game. This much closer to 1,000 yards, he's going to do it. And he is, I think, 1 or 2 receptions away from beating OBJ and Saquon's receptions most on the year by a rookie. I think Saquon's was 91 and Odell's must have been right around there. So I think Neighbors has 90. So he's right there. So I'm happy for him. I really hope that, at the very least, he gets to 1,000 yards. He breaks that record. Let him have something to be excited about. Let us be excited about something in this god-awful season. And look, the best part about Neighbors is he's a rookie, and he is going to be on this team, hopefully, for a really long time. And if this is what we're getting out of him in his rookie year with 4 bad quarterbacks, imagine what we're going to see out of him when he's got a good quarterback. So I have a lot of hope for Neighbors. And like I said, I'm just really happy that this is the player and this is the person that we are seeing, because, I have been critical of Neighbors where I felt like it's warranted. And this is not a time that I feel like he deserves criticism. He deserves praise. So happy about that for Neighbors. 82 yards, good game out of him. Wan'Dale out of 9 targets, 4 receptions for 38 yards. Bellinger 3 for 3 for 35. Slayton 1 for 1 for 16. Singletary 3 for 3 for 16. And Tracy 1 for 4 for 4 yards. Total 22 receptions for 191 yards. So the questions that I have surrounding the passing attack are the same questions virtually that I have week in and week out. I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled on the 4th and 2 that the play call was to throw a ball that is past the sticks. It was exactly 2.5 yards, but it got the job done because then you've got a 3rd and 6 and you're throwing a 5-yard pass to Wandale before that. So the things that infuriate me week in and week out are still infuriating me, just a little less because like I don't care. I'm not as pissed. I just don't understand it. Don't understand the play call there. Why are you not throwing a ball that's past 6 yards? Like, if you're going to do that, do it to Theo Johnson and Theo Johnson only, who is 6'6". Do not do it to Wandale, who's what, 5'7", 5'8"? Like, come on, use your common sense here. But anyway, I love Wandale. I loved the deep ball that they threw to him. I was concerned about it. And I'm also like, I love Wandale. Get him involved. Don't get me wrong. But why are you not throwing that ball to Slayton or Neighbors? Just interesting. I'm glad it works. There's not a lot that works for this offense. So glad to see, something like that worked. But just some questionable things overall. And why does Darius Slayton have 1 target? He's been the leading receiver on the Giants for 5 out of 6 years. And he had a lot of receptions earlier on in the season, and all of a sudden Daniel Jones is gone. So the quarterback doesn't throw it to Darius Slayton. It's just like, do not understand. That's all I have to say about the offense. It is what it is. Adoree Jackson. Okay. Adoree Jackson is another guy who I will give a little bit of credit because he really has infuriated me from when they signed him up until about 3 weeks ago when he decided that all of a sudden I'm going to start playing football again. I don't know why. I don't know what happened, but I'll take it. I mean, I'd rather give him praise and see these guys actually give a shit and play good football instead of being a lazy ass bum out there. So credit to you, Adoree Jackson, for finally figuring it out and deciding to play good football because he recovered a fumble. Forced it out and recovered a fumble, which was great. He's also had some really nice pass deflections over the last few weeks. We know this. He's never been good at actually getting interceptions, but just maybe for once, Adoree, I'd like to see you get your hands on the ball and reel it in. I won't get my hopes up, but he's done a nice job the last couple of weeks. So happy about that. Let's continue on with the rest of the defense because Dane Belton led the charge with 15 tackles, which has to be one of the most by any single player on the Giants this season because as we know, the tackling with this team has been trash for out the whole season. So I don't actually know. I would have to look this up, but I'm fairly certain that this is the highest, if not closest to the highest, of any Giants defensive player all year. So good job to Dane Belton. He also had a sack, a tackle for loss, a pass deflection, and a quarterback hit. So obviously he got the most amount of playing time that he's gotten all year with But this is what I like to see, right? At this point in the season, I just want to see the guys who are getting snaps make the most of them. Even a guy like Stroman, who literally came out of nowhere as a corner, has done relatively okay, all things considered. When you have a guy like that who comes in, again, my expectations are on the floor. So if you make a couple plays and look like you know what you're doing out there, I'll take what I can get at this point. McFadden was right behind him with 11 total tackles, 1 sack, and 1 quarterback hit. McFadden has really come on in the last couple of weeks. And what's maddening about him is that he'll miss a tackle and you're like he misses seemingly easy tackles, but then he also makes really hard ones. And I'm like, I just need you to be the slightest bit more consistent. But I really love McFadden, and he's one of the few draft picks that Joe Schoen has really hit on. I think he was a 3rd rounder, and, he's been inconsistent. And I feel like in the last couple weeks and this year specifically, it's been one of his better years where he definitely has the missed tackles as an issue. But he seems to be one of those players who is all over the field. And he does make tackles when it matters. And he makes tackle for losses. And he's had a couple sacks and quarterback hits. And he's one of the guys that I could really get on board with and be excited about for the future. And I feel like, when Bobby Okereke is back and, maybe we have a new defensive coordinator or someone who is going to scheme to bring out the best in the players on the defense, the linebackers specifically, then, we'll see a better linebacking core from them. And I just hope give me coaches who actually are going to help these players improve, because that's not what's currently happening. Stroman, Pinnock, and Darius Muasau all had 6 tackles. Adoree 5, Art Green, another guy who's seemingly come out of nowhere, had 4, Elijah Garcia 3, Burns, my man. Okay, so Burns and Jordan Riley both had 2 total tackles, 1 solo. Burns had a sack, tackle for loss, and a quarterback hit. And Jordan Riley had a tackle for loss and a quarterback hit as well. And this is what I said earlier about Burns is I so desperately want him to be a captain next year. He needs to be a captain because he came from a shit organization to a god awful football team this year. Now the Panthers look better than the Giants do. And like I said, he's had every opportunity to say, I'm going to pack it in. I've got injuries every week. He's on the injury report. There is no reason for him to continue to work as hard and play as hard as he does outside of his own pride. And it's so obvious to me that he cares more than a lot of the players that I have seen on this team. And I really, really appreciate that about him. And I'm really grateful that he gives us something to watch and something to be excited about. Him and Neighbors are just 2 of the guys right now who I feel like really deserve praise from this fan base. I hope they're getting it from the coaching staff, but like I said, they have every opportunity to pack it in. We have seen guys not give their full effort, and you've seen guys call other players out on it. And we've seen a lot of shit from this team this year, just shit across the board. And, to see guys like this who take a lot of pride in their work in a 2-12 season where they're 0-8 at home, I give him a lot of respect. And he's a guy that I'm really happy about. And like I said, a guy that is going to be here for the next few years. And I hope that, we can turn it around and start winning for these guys, because those are the guys, the Dexter Lawrence and the Andrew Thomases of the team. Like, those are the guys that you want to win for, And I really appreciate that, Dexter and Burns can always turn to each other and say, I gave it my all out there and I never slacked off. And I think we could probably say that about Kayvon as well. Kayvon didn't have a good game this game. He was pretty quiet. He had 1 total tackle, but I do think the thing about Kayvon is I do think he cares. I don't feel like he's dogging it out there where Tay Banks and Adoree Jackson and some of these other players have seemingly given up on the field. So I think credit should be given where it's due to the players who seem like they actually care. So really appreciate that about those guys. And I thought it was really interesting. Casey Rogers, who essentially came out of nowhere and played last week and did a really nice job defending the run. He basically said in his presser when he spoke to the media that, he was like, we went out there and we wanted to make plays and we wanted to be tough and we wanted to play physical, and we did. And I think that says a lot. Like, I don't know if the coaches aren't preaching that week in and week out. I don't know what goes on behind the scenes, but when you have a practice squad guy who literally came out of nowhere and did everything he could to help this team stop the run, and it made me lose bets again for the 2nd week in a row because Derrick Henry couldn't get over 80 yards. I mean, good job to this defensive line and to these players, because like I said, there are a lot of them who don't care, and the ones that do, we see you and we appreciate you. I'm going to stop betting against our run defense from now on. Fine, you guys win, I take it back. You can do it twice in a row. Okay, I'll stop. But I give them credit for that, because I'm like, dude, I literally lost like 6 parlays yesterday because Derrick Henry didn't score a touchdown. Like, come on. If you're going to suck and lose games, at least let me win some money. Like, let me have something to look forward to, because it's not watching this football team play. I'll tell you that much. Kick returns, I have nothing good to say about special teams other than at least we didn't say Eric Gray out there, so that's a plus for them. And Graham Gano went 2 for 2 on the extra points. They didn't get close enough to go for any field goals. So not really much to say about this Giants team. They play on Sunday against the Falcons, which is going to be interesting. I have no faith in this Giants team that they're going to beat the Falcons, but I do feel like there is a chance that on Monday Night Football, we could see the Raiders beat the Falcons tonight. And I am very curious if that happens, if Kirk Cousins continues to have a bad season, like the way that it's going, will we see Michael Penix on Sunday? And if we see Michael Penix, will that change how the game goes? I think it could be a possibility because like Dable said about trying to bring in DeVito to get that spark, maybe if they bench Kirk Cousins and bring in Michael Penix, maybe that's going to be the spark to get this team going. I don't know, but I'm very curious to watch tonight and we'll see how that goes. So thank you guys for listening. For all of you who are still here and listen to this podcast or watch it all the way through, I appreciate you more than you will ever know. And I'll be back on Thursday or Friday. We'll preview the Giants versus Falcons game. And if there's any more baseball updates, we will touch on the Mets and the Yankees. In the meantime, you guys enjoy your week. Follow me on Instagram at New York Giants Fangirl. I will do a Q&A tomorrow. You can submit your questions and I will get around to asking them and we'll just talk more Giants football or whatever there is to talk about. So thanks for listening and I'll be back later this week. Have a great week, you guys. I hope you won some more money than I did. And thanks for listening. Go Giants.